My name is Barbara T. Bentley. I'm 33 years old, and until that Sunday dinner, I honestly believed my family understood the difference between generosity and ownership. I was wrong in a way that still makes my stomach tighten when I think about it. 5 years ago, after a brutal project launch, a promotion I nearly burned myself out earning, and years of saving every spare dollar, I bought a modest beach cottage about 2 hours from where we all lived. It was not glamorous. It had 2 small bedrooms, warped kitchen cabinets, a deck that groaned in the wind, and plumbing that seemed personally offended by my existence. But it was mine. I spent weekends there with scraped knuckles, YouTube repair videos playing on my phone, paint in my hair, and a quiet pride I had never felt anywhere else. Every loose board, every repaired pipe, every fresh coat of paint felt like proof that I could build something stable with my own hands. My younger sister, Jenna Bentley, was 29 and had always been what our parents called creative. That word covered a lot. Missed rent, abandoned jobs, sudden new dreams, loans that became forgotten favors. I never hated her for being different from me. I had helped her more times than I could count, because she was my sister, and because somewhere deep down, I still wanted to believe our family protected one another. 3 months before everything fell apart, Jenna announced her engagement to Patrick Hale, 27. Patrick was charming in a soft, polished way, the kind of man who listened with his head tilted and made you feel like every sentence mattered. Jenna seemed steadier around him, calmer, almost hopeful. I was happy for her. Truly. I started thinking about a generous wedding gift, maybe money toward the honeymoon, maybe help with furniture, something meaningful but sane. Then Sunday dinner happened. We were at my parents' house, seated around the same oak table where every family argument had once been softened by roast chicken and forced smiles. My father, Richard, was carving meat with his usual serious expression. My mother, Susan, kept asking Patrick about venue options. Jenna had her tablet open, swiping through photos of barns, gardens, and ballrooms, as if the whole future was just a slideshow waiting to be chosen. Then Jenna set down her fork and looked straight at me. "So, Barbara," she said with a strange formal brightness, "Patrick and I have been talking about wedding gifts, and we decided what we would really love from you." I smiled because I thought she meant a registry item, or help with a deposit on a photographer. "Sure. What were you thinking?" "The beach house," she said. For 1 second I laughed, not because it was funny, but because my brain refused to accept the sentence as real. The room went still. Patrick did not laugh. My parents did not look surprised. Jenna only watched me, waiting. "I'm sorry," I said slowly. "What?" Patrick leaned forward, his voice gentle, practiced. "You're successful, Barbara. You have your apartment, your investments, your career. The beach house is just a vacation place for you. For us, it would be life-changing." Jenna nodded quickly. "It would give us stability. A real start." I stared at her. "Jenna, that is a $400,000 property. You're asking me to give you a house as a wedding gift." "It's not about the money," she said, and something hot moved through my chest because it was absolutely about the money. "It's about family." My mother sighed like I was already disappointing her. "Barbara, you do have so much. Would it really hurt you to help your sister begin married life properly?" My father added, "You barely use it anyway. You went there, 3 times this summer?" I looked from face to face, waiting for one person to realize how insane this was. No one did. "I went 3 times because I've been working 60-hour weeks to maintain the success everyone suddenly wants to redistribute," I said. Jenna's mouth tightened. "Don't be dramatic. This is exactly what I mean. You hoard your success. I have loaned you money 17 times in 5 years, I said, my voice sharper now. I paid for your car repairs. I covered your rent when you were between jobs. Loaned, Jenna snapped. And I paid most of it back. You paid back about 30%. I never pushed because you were struggling. Patrick finally spoke, calm but firm. We're not asking for charity, Barbara. We're asking for a gift that shows you support our marriage. I do support your marriage, I said. I'll give you a generous gift. I'll help with honeymoon expenses, but I am not giving you my house. The air changed. Jenna's face flushed red. My mother looked wounded. My father looked disappointed, which somehow hurt worse. Jenna stood so quickly her chair scraped the floor. Fine, keep your precious house, but don't expect us to pretend we're close when you clearly value property more than your own sister's happiness. I left soon after, my hands shaking all the way to the car. The drive home felt unreal. I kept replaying every word, wondering if I had missed some hidden rule where love meant surrendering everything you had earned. That night, my mother texted me a photo of Jenna and Patrick smiling at a wedding venue. Her caption said, "They look so happy, despite everything." Despite everything. As if I had already done something cruel. For the next 2 weeks, my family became a cold, quiet courtroom where I was already convicted. Jenna did not call me directly, but she posted quotes online about betrayal, about people revealing their true colors, about how success meant nothing if your heart was empty. Patrick shared one of them with a praying hands emoji, which somehow made it worse. My parents texted in a softer way, but the meaning was never soft. My mother sent articles about generosity between siblings. My father sent a message that said, "Family is what remains when possessions are gone." Neither of them asked how I felt. Neither of them admitted that asking for a house as a wedding gift was absurd. Then Jenna texted me, "Can we talk? Just us? Coffee downtown?" I wanted to ignore it. Instead, I agreed, because a foolish part of me still hoped she had calmed down. I imagined an apology, maybe embarrassment, maybe a sentence like, "I don't know what I was thinking." I arrived at our usual coffee shop 10 minutes early and found Jenna sitting at a corner table with Patrick beside her. That should have been my first warning. Jenna stood when she saw me, smoothing her sweater over her waist. "Barbara, thank you for coming." Patrick gave me that gentle smile again. "We really want to clear the air." I sat down carefully. "Okay, I'm listening." Jenna looked at her hands. I realized I approached it wrong at dinner. I was nervous, and it came out more aggressive than I intended. I felt my shoulders loosen a little. "I appreciate you saying that." It was a shock. Patrick leaned forward. "And we've been thinking about what you said, about the beach house being a $400,000 property." "Right," I said slowly. "You're right," Jenna continued. "It would be unfair to expect something that valuable without giving anything back." For one brief, fragile moment, I believed reason had entered the room. Then Patrick pulled out his phone. "We looked at comparable properties," he said, "and we think we could do a payment plan. Maybe $500 a month for as long as it takes." I stared at him. $500 a month? Jenna nodded, hopeful. "It would be symbolic, obviously. A family discount." "That's not a family discount," I said. "That's below rent, and at that rate, you would pay it off sometime after retirement age, not counting taxes, insurance, repairs, or interest." Patrick's smile faded. "Do we really need interest between family?" I let out a slow breath. "This is not a compromise. This is you asking me to give you the house with a token payment attached so everyone can pretend it's reasonable." Jenna's eyes hardened. "You always make it sound ugly." "Because it is ugly," I said quietly. "I have offered to help. You keep rejecting every form of help, except the exact thing you want." The conversation fell apart after that. Jenna accused me of rubbing success in her face. Patrick suggested I did not understand what it meant to build a family because I lived alone. That sentence landed harder than I expected. He said it gently, but there was a blade under it. 3 days later, my doorman called up to say Jenna and Patrick were there to see me. I was working from home, buried in a complicated report, but I told him to send them up. Again, I hoped for sanity. They walked into my apartment carrying a measuring tape, a notebook, and paint samples. I stared. "What is this?" "We're going to the beach house this weekend," Jenna said, as if discussing weather. "We need the key." "The key?" Patrick opened the notebook. "We just need to measure the rooms. see what furniture fits, decide whether to repaint before the baby comes. My body went still. Before what? Jenna placed one hand over her stomach. Her face softened into something almost theatrical. I'm pregnant. For a moment, everything stopped. Despite the anger, despite the pressure, a part of me reacted automatically. Congratulations, I said. Jenna's eyes filled with tears. We need stability, Barbara. A real home for our child, your niece or nephew. I'm happy for you, I said carefully, but having a child does not entitle you to my property. Patrick's expression changed. The softness disappeared. That is a very cold thing to say. No, I said. Cold is using a pregnancy announcement as leverage for a house. Jenna flinched as if I had slapped her. I knew you'd twist this. I'm not twisting anything. You came here with paint samples. She turned toward Patrick with wet eyes. I told you she wouldn't cooperate. Cooperate with what? I asked. A plan I already refused? Patrick's voice dropped. Your parents have a spare key from the hurricane last year. My blood went cold. You will not go to my house without my permission, I said. Jenna looked at me through tears, but her voice was steady. It's going to be our house eventually. We're just trying to prepare. No, I said. It is not. They left after more arguing, with Patrick warning me that I would regret choosing property over family. That evening, my mother called crying. Real crying. Barbara, how could you? Your sister is having a baby. Mom, they want my house. It's just a building. Then why does everyone need it so badly? She hung up on me. An hour later, my father called and said, I hope that house is worth losing your sister. I stood in my kitchen, looking at the keys hanging by the door, and realized the question was backwards. I was not choosing the house over them. They were choosing the house over me. For almost 2 weeks after that, things went strangely quiet. No surprise visits, no tearful phone calls, no dramatic messages from my parents. Jenna still posted vague little quotes online. Things like, real family shows up before strangers do, and Patrick shared one about protecting your peace from selfish people. I stopped looking after a while because every post felt like someone pressing a bruise. I started hoping the silence meant everyone was cooling down. Maybe Jenna and Patrick had found an apartment. Maybe my parents had finally realized how unreasonable this had become. Maybe we could eventually sit down and talk like adults, without someone mentioning my house like it was a communal prize. Then Jennifer called. Jennifer was my neighbor at the beach house, a retired teacher who lived there year-round and had quietly become one of the reasons I felt safe leaving the cottage empty during busy work weeks. She watered my porch plants sometimes. She texted me after storms. She noticed things. Barbara, she said, her voice tense. I don't want to alarm you, but there are people at your house. My hand froze over my laptop. What people? They said they're family. My stomach dropped. Are they inside? No, but they're trying keys at the door. For 1 second, I could not speak. I pictured Jenna's hand holding my spare key, Patrick standing behind her with that calm expression, my parents pretending this was all reasonable. Should I call the police? Jennifer asked. Not yet, I said, already standing. I'll handle it. I called my mother first. She answered on the second ring, and I could hear road noise. Oh, Barbara, she said too brightly. Perfect timing. We're actually on our way to the beach house now. You're what? Jenna and Patrick wanted to see the place properly. We gave them the spare key. For a moment, rage was so clean and sharp it made my vision narrow. You gave them my key without permission. It's just to look, she said. What harm could that do? I hung up before I said something I could never take back. Then I called an emergency locksmith, grabbed my keys, and drove 2 hours with my pulse hammering in my throat. When I arrived, the scene on my deck looked like a nightmare staged in daylight. Jenna and Patrick were there with my parents. Jenna had a laptop open on the patio table. Patrick was holding furniture catalogs. My mother stood near the railing, as if she were hosting a tour. My father had his arms folded, already wearing his disappointed face. But they were not alone. A couple I had never seen before stood near the steps. The woman smiled when she saw me. "Barbara!" Jenna called cheerfully, as if this was normal. "Perfect. You can let us in now." I got out of the car slowly. "Let you in for what?" The unfamiliar woman stepped forward. "Hi, I'm Rebecca, and this is my husband, David." Jenna and Patrick invited us to see the honeymoon rental property. For a second, the ocean sounded too loud. "The what?" I asked. Patrick looked uncomfortable. Jenna did not. "It would help with costs," she said defensively. "Beach houses generate good rental income." "My beach house," I said, "which is not yours, which is not for rent." Rebecca's smile vanished. "I'm sorry. Is there some confusion? We already sent a deposit." I turned to Jenna. "You took money from strangers for my house?" Patrick lifted one hand. "We were going to return it if things didn't work out." "If things didn't work out?" I repeated. "You mean if your attempted theft became inconvenient?" My mother gasped. "Barbara, don't use words like that." "What word should I use, Mom? Planning? Touring? Family?" David looked at Rebecca and muttered, "This is sketchy." They left quickly after that, apologizing to me more than once, though they had done nothing wrong except trust people who had lied to them. When their car disappeared, I faced my family. "Everyone needs to leave." My father stepped forward. "You're embarrassing yourself." I laughed once, but there was nothing funny in it. Jenna tried to rent out a house she does not own, and I'm embarrassing myself? Jenna's face crumpled. "Why do you hate us so much?" "I don't hate you. I am saying no." Patrick moved closer, voice low. "Barbara, Jenna has been under terrible stress. The pregnancy has complications." Jenna put a hand to her stomach again, tears slipping down her cheeks. "The doctor said stress is bad for the baby." "I'm sorry," I said. "And I meant that part. You should see your doctor and take care of yourself. But not having my beach house is not a medical emergency." Patrick's jaw tightened. "If something happens because of this stress—" "Stop," I said. "Do not finish that sentence. You are not going to blame me for anything because I refuse to surrender my property." The locksmith arrived while my family was still berating me. My mother cried. My father said I was breaking the family. Jenna called me heartless. Patrick said I had no idea what sacrifice meant. I stood there while the locks were changed, feeling every word hit and fall away. Before leaving, Jenna turned back. "One day my child will ask why they never see Aunt Barbara. I'll tell them the truth." I looked at her. "Tell them their mother tried to take a house and called it love." They left in silence. I stayed the weekend. I installed cameras, motion alerts, and a full security system. Jennifer came over with coffee and said, "I'm sorry, honey. Families can be cruel when they think love means access." When I finally returned home, I found out Jenna and Patrick had created a fundraiser titled, "Help Jenna and Patrick Find a Home After Family Betrayal." The description made me sound like a wealthy monster sitting on empty rooms while my pregnant sister suffered. They had already raised $500. That night, I sat on my kitchen floor with my phone in my hand, realizing this was no longer just entitlement. It was a campaign, and I was the villain they needed me to be. After the fundraiser went up, something in me finally stopped hoping this was only a misunderstanding. Jenna and Patrick had taken the story and shaped it into something useful. In their version, I was the cold older sister with too much money and not enough heart. They were the young couple, pregnant and desperate, betrayed by a woman who had forgotten where she came from. I wanted to defend myself publicly. I wanted to post screenshots, receipts, every message, every warning, every ridiculous request. But my lawyer friend told me to stay quiet and document everything. So I did. I saved every post. I saved every text. I saved the fundraiser page before they could edit it. Then he helped me draft a cease and desist letter, warning them to stop misrepresenting ownership of my property and to stop attempting access without permission. For a while, the silence returned. Jenna and Patrick blocked me on social media. My parents only texted about neutral things: weather, doctor appointments, a leaking sink. I was not invited to family dinners anymore, which should have hurt more than it did. Mostly, I felt tired. I worked. I went to therapy. I spent weekends at the beach house, pretending the place did not feel different now. Then, 5 weeks later, an email appeared in my inbox. "Congratulations on your pending property transfer." I stared at the subject line for a long time before opening it. The message came from a title company. It asked me to review attached documents regarding the deed transfer of my beach house to Jenna Bentley and Patrick Hale. For a moment, my body went so cold I could not move. Then I called the number in the email. A cheerful woman answered. "Yes, Miss Bentley. We received the family transfer paperwork. We just need your signature and the transfer tax payment to proceed." "I never authorized any transfer," I said. "This is fraud." Her tone changed immediately. "One moment, please." I heard typing. "We have documentation indicating a verbal agreement to gift the property," she said carefully, "witnessed by Richard and Susan Bentley. My parents. My own parents." I closed my eyes. A verbal agreement to transfer real estate is not valid without signed documents, and I never made that agreement. "We understand," she said, much more cautiously now. "I'm going to escalate this to our legal department. Can you provide proof of ownership?" Within minutes, I sent everything. The deed, mortgage records, tax bills, insurance statements. Then, I called a real estate attorney, not a friend this time, a real one who specialized in property fraud. By the next day, we had copies of what Jenna and Patrick had submitted. An affidavit from Jenna claiming I had promised the beach house as a wedding gift. A supporting statement from Patrick saying I had emotionally committed to helping them secure stable housing. Signed statements from my parents claiming they had witnessed my agreement at dinner. Screenshots of texts where I had said, "I want to help," cut away from the parts where I clearly refused to give up the house. And most unbelievably, a letter from Jenna's doctor mentioning pregnancy stress, attached as if a medical concern could legally transfer property. My attorney read it all and said, "Barbara, this is attempted fraud." Hearing the words spoken out loud made my throat tighten. He sent a cease and desist letter immediately. Then he told me I needed to file a police report. Filing a police report against your own sister is a strange kind of heartbreak. The detective who took my statement looked tired but not surprised. "Property fraud between relatives happens more often than people think," he said. "Usually it's parents and adult children, but siblings too." Within 48 hours, my phone started exploding. Jenna called from a blocked number, screaming before I even said hello. "You're ruining my life." "You tried to steal my house," I said. "I was formalizing what you promised." "I never promised you anything except help, not ownership." "You said you wanted to help us." "Yes, help, not hand over a $400,000 property." Patrick called next, his voice shaking with rage disguised as pain. "Jenna is 7 months pregnant, Barbara. You're trying to get the mother of my child arrested. I'm trying to protect myself from fraud." "It wasn't fraud. Your parents said you agreed, but were too proud to admit it." That sentence told me everything. Then my mother called. "Barbara, drop this immediately," she said. "Jenna made a mistake, but police, lawyers, this is too far. She tried to transfer my house. She believed you would do the right thing." "No, Mom. She believed you when you lied." "We didn't lie," my mother snapped. "We interpreted." "You interpreted my no as yes?" Silence. Then she said, "You should have said yes. That is the point. Family helps family." For the first time, I did not argue. I simply hung up. The detective later told me the title company was cooperating and the evidence was clear, but the district attorney might not pursue charges because no transfer had actually happened. My attorney recommended a restraining order. I hated that word. It sounded extreme, ugly, permanent. Then I thought of Jenna on my deck with catalogs. I thought of Patrick taking rental deposits. I thought of my parents signing false statements. And I agreed. Because whatever this family had become, I could not let them near my home again. The restraining order hearing was held on a gray morning that made the courthouse windows look like dull mirrors. I remember sitting beside my attorney with my hands folded so tightly my knuckles ached. Across the aisle, Jenna sat with Patrick beside her, one hand resting over her stomach. My parents sat behind them, both staring at me like I had walked in carrying a weapon instead of a folder full of evidence. Jenna looked smaller than I expected. Not innocent, not sorry, just tired. Patrick whispered something to her, and she nodded without looking at me. My mother had been crying before we even entered the courtroom. My father sat rigid, jaw locked, his disappointment still polished into something he thought looked like dignity. The judge reviewed the documents in silence. The affidavit, the screenshots, the false statements, the title company emails, the cease and desist letter. Each page turned felt like a door closing. Then he looked at Jenna. Miss Bentley, did you genuinely believe your sister had agreed to transfer this property to you? Jenna swallowed. She said she wanted to help us. That was not my question. The room went quiet. Jenna's voice became smaller. I believed she should. The judge looked over his glasses. Believing someone should do something is not the same as that person agreeing to do it. Patrick shifted in his chair. My mother began to cry harder. Then the judge turned to my parents. You both signed statements claiming you witnessed an agreement. My father cleared his throat. We witnessed Barbara saying she would help. Help with what specifically? With their situation. Did she specifically say she would give them the beach house? No one answered. The silence felt bigger than any confession. The judge leaned back. I will take that as a no, my mother whispered. We were just trying to keep the family together. The judge's face hardened. By filing false statements in a property transfer? My mother looked down. In that moment, something inside me broke cleanly. Not loudly, not dramatically. I simply understood there would be no apology that day. No sudden regret. No realization that I was their daughter too. They still believed the real tragedy was that I had refused to cooperate with their version of love. The restraining order was granted. Jenna and Patrick were ordered to stay away from me and my properties. My parents were not included, but the judge warned them that false affidavits were serious and that any future involvement could have consequences. As we left the courtroom, Jenna walked past me slowly. Her eyes were red, but her voice was cold. I hope you're happy, she said. You destroyed our family. I looked at her, and for once, I did not soften my words. You destroyed it when you tried to steal from me. Patrick guided her away. My mother stopped near me, trembling. I will never forgive you for this, Barbara, she said. I thought it would hurt more. Maybe I was too exhausted. Maybe some part of me had already grieved her before that morning. My father only shook his head and let her out. 3 weeks later, Jenna had the baby. A girl. Emma. I found out through a cousin's Facebook post a photo of tiny fingers wrapped around Jenna's thumb. I stared at it longer than I should have. I felt sadness, anger, tenderness, and distance all at once. I was an aunt, but only in biology. I had no place in that child's life, and maybe that was safest for both of us. Jenna and Patrick moved to another state to live with his parents. My parents sold part of their retirement investments to help them start over. That detail reached me through the same cousin, delivered with the nervous tone people use when they are telling you something painful but think you deserve to know. I kept going to therapy. My therapist told me I was grieving the family I thought I had, not just the family I lost. She said I did nothing wrong. I knew that logically, but knowing you are right does not make Christmas quieter. It does not stop you from checking your phone and remembering there will be no invitation, no apology, no awkward holiday truce. For a while, the beach house felt tainted. I thought about selling it, but that felt like surrendering the last thing they had not managed to take. So I stayed. I repainted the kitchen. I fixed the loose deck board. I planted lavender near the steps, because Jennifer said it could survive the salt air if I was patient. Sometimes I still check the cameras too often. Sometimes I imagine Jenna on the deck with catalogs, Patrick measuring windows, my parents standing behind them, calling theft a future. But most nights now, the house is quiet. Just waves, wind, seabirds, the small creak of a place that survived. I used to think the saddest part was losing my family over a beach house. But that is not what happened. I lost them because when I said no, they decided my boundaries were betrayal. They wanted everything, and when I would not give it, they tried to take it. If Jenna had asked for help with a down payment, temporary rent, baby expenses, even a few months at the cottage while they got steady, I probably would have said yes. That is the irony I still carry. I was willing to help. I was never willing to disappear inside their entitlement. So this is where I am now. A 33-year-old woman with a house she earned, locks she changed, documents saved in case the past comes knocking again, and a family shaped like an empty chair. The beach house is still mine. And some days, that feels like victory. Other days, it just feels quiet.